Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to this video about Doctor Who, The Women Who Lived. This is a book featuring stories about different women across the Doctor Who universe, with some lovely artwork to boot. Fun fact, that the cover on the front is by Lee Binding, and he is the only male illustrator for this novel, as they, along with stories about great female characters in this series, we've got the illustrations are by great female illustrators. I wasn't certain what word to use. Artists, I think, might actually be a better word. But there's some great artwork here. Back in 2018, 2019, this came out, and I had seen it at Waterstones a few times, and I did have a quick look, not at the stories, but at some of the artwork. The artwork in this book is absolutely beautiful. Well, most of it anyway. There's a couple of early ones, but mostly it's really, really good. The stories themselves are also handled well. The writers are Crystal D from 5 Who Fans and Doctor Who The Fan Show, and regular Doctor Who expanded media writer, mainly at Big Finish, Simon Gurrier. And together they are able to write some great stories about these characters. Not brand new stories, these are the lives of characters, written up in a way, a page or 2 pages for some characters being written about them, as well as a picture of 1 or 2 illustrations. There's a few characters who get 2 pages written about them with 2 pictures illustrated, but most of the characters are only 1 picture and 1 story page, usually giving them a total of 2 overall. Of course, the Doctor is at the end, the 13th Doctor, as well as, well, the story is about the whole of the Doctor's life up to that point, but it's mainly focusing on the 13th Doctor in the illustration section, and that section is 8 pages, so 4 pages for the story, and 4 pages for the artwork. There are 10 honourable mentions without artwork, but they do have, some of them do have quotes, and there is also and Not Forgetting, which has a list of names at the back. And they get quite a few characters in this book. There's quite a few. Many of them are quite notable characters, especially in the new series. They got a lot of secondary new series characters in this series, but there's a few classic series ones. One thing I am a bit confused about is some of the choices that they've gone with. I mean, there's quite a few companions and some notable one-time characters, but then you've got ones like her from The Unearthly Child, Lacosta from the Romans, and Professor Helen Clay, who didn't actually appear properly in Twice Upon a Time. There was the hologram of her and the Ice Lady thing, but she herself wasn't actually in the episode. It was just the hologram of her and the model of the Glass Lady based on her, but she herself didn't really meet the Doctor or actually take part in many of the events. It was really her creation that was doing all of the activities, so yeah. Also, there's a couple in the honourable mentions and not forgettings that I think could have had some stuff talked about. For instance, I think Gwen Cooper, it was a missed opportunity putting her only in the honourable mentions and not as a 2-page spread, because she was a main character in Torchwood. And I think this book is mainly focusing on Doctor Who, though it does cover a little bit of the Sarah Jane adventures when talking about Jo and Sarah Jane. But considering Gwen is a main character in Torchwood, I think it would have been nice for her to have the 2-page spread, and they could have just added a little bit more onto the bit where it was already included. Similarly, Cass is was a sort of companion of the 8th Doctor in The Night of the Doctor. She's a character who could be considered a companion for that one story. And Heather the Pilot is a more notable supporting character in the Capaldi era than Professor Helen Clay ever was. I also find the bit on the President of Earth's bit in the honourable mentions where it says she worked closely with the Draconian ambassador and was even ready to listen to a strange man called the Doctor who claimed a wicked third party was engineering the conflict. Well, if you've ever seen Frontier in Space, you'll know it takes about 5.5 episodes until the Doctor and Jo are able to convince Earth authorities that they are telling the truth. It takes them almost the entire story. They're able to convince the Draconians sooner than they are the President of Earth or her authorities. So, yeah, and she only worked with the Draconian ambassador when she knew she could trust him due to the wicked third party, those being the Ogrons. So, yeah, that's skipped a big chunk of frontier in space in that paragraph. Also, funnily enough, The Not Forgetting has a whole host of female characters, some of which most of them I can actually say which story they're from, which Doctor they met, but some of them I can't really place. But what I did notice is that Mags from the Greatest Show in the Galaxy is not mentioned at all in this book, which is a bit strange. When did those audios with her as companion come out? I think 2019. But again, she's more of a notable character than the Coaster or Helen Clay, and she doesn't even get a Not Forgetting mention. Similarly, I don't think Jennifer from the Ganger two-parter gets a mention, and she was, well, the Ganger version of her character was the main villain of that story, but they mention one of the other characters from that story, Cleves. They mention Cleves. So, yeah. Tosh from Torchwood is also in The Not Forgetting, but since she was a minor character in Aliens of London, then that makes sense, whilst Gwen was a bit more of a main player in Stolen Earth Journey's End. And it probably would, and with Tosh being an honourable mention in the main section, may not have worked as well. But I think Gwen could have worked as a main section one. Again, more information about her than Helen Clay or LaCosta or her. However, the majority of the book features some of the most notable supporting characters of the show, specifically the new series, and pretty much all of the companions up to the start of Series 11. Well, the female ones anyway. Although I find it a bit strange that they published this book just before Series 11, and yet they don't really have an awful lot on Yasmin Khan or the 13th Doctor. They've got a lot on the Doctor, but not so much the 13th Doctor section. They don't even list Yasmin Khan's first episode title, so this book was obviously published before Series 11 came out. They've also got Grace O'Brien listed as a Not Forgetting, and I think had this book come out during or after Series 11, not only could you add more to Yasmin Khan and a little bit more to the 13th Doctor, but you could have actually had Grace O'Brien as a main character in the main section, because she was a great character, and I think Series 11 has a good couple of female characters that you could at least write a little bit about, maybe in the honourable mentions, or give a mention in the Not Forgetting. I definitely think Rosa Parks would definitely be in the main section. Also have to mention on some characters the dates are a little bit wrong. Mercy Hartigan's, for example, has the next Doctor as 2009, which isn't quite correct. So there's a couple of date inconsistencies in the book. And also, I find it a bit strange that the Doctor is talking, her story is in first person whilst the others are in third. Perhaps the Doctor is the one telling us all the stories, and then when it comes to her story, she tells it in first person instead of third. I just find that interesting. Though I would have liked to have the whole list of actors at the top, list all of the Doctors so we know who's playing who. It just says Jodie Whittaker and others. I know Jodie Whittaker's the only female incarnation at the moment, but it would have been nice to list all the others, and you could tell who was playing each Doctor perhaps through that. That's not so much of a problem. I don't think there's actually that many problems with this book, apart from some date inconsistencies and some choices of who they talk about. However, this book is certainly a must-read for those wishing to read more or less, what's the word, condensed versions of companion or supporting character stories. There's some beautiful artwork in this book, and overall it's a great piece of work by Crystal D and Simon Gurrier and the many illustrators working on this book. So despite a few questionable things and a few date inconsistencies, I will be giving The Woman Who Lived, the Amazing Tales for Future Time Lord book, a solid 9 out of 10. I think it's a great book, and it's got some really lovely art. If you're going to get it for the stories and the artwork. They're absolutely brilliant. And I knew I wanted to do a review on this book for about 2 years now. I knew I wanted to do this review for about a year or two, and I finally got round to being able to get this book last year. It took me a while. It was back in Waterstones after a couple of months' absence, maybe even a year's absence, come to think of that, and I was able to get this at the start of July 2020, and now here we are, just past the midway point of August, perhaps by the time this video is coming up it's coming towards the end. But yeah, I just knew for a year or two that I wanted to talk about this book because it had so much beautiful artwork and they've got some great stories in here. So finally, I've gotten the chance to do it, and yeah, I'm glad I read it. I love most of the artwork, and it's just an absolutely brilliant read. And I think you'll enjoy it, especially if you're a female viewer and you want to know about female characters, especially some of the lesser known ones, or single-time characters, or some of the older companions, perhaps. I will say, I think most of the newer series companions are some of the ones who get the 2-page spreads, but you do get a couple of classic series ones like Jo and Sarah Jane and Susan and Ace who get the 2-page spreads. But not all the classic companions get 2-page spreads, sadly, but it's nice to see quite a few characters do get some 2-page spreads when most of them are 1-page. But that's absolutely fine. And by the way, you could probably read each page in about a minute or two, so it'll probably take you about... For a single page spread, it'll probably take you 2 minutes to read it. For a 2-page spread, it'll probably take you about 4 minutes. And for the Doctor one, which is 4 pages for text, it would take you about 8 minutes, and that's not even including the time it takes to look at the artwork. Probably just take a minute or two for the honourable mentions, and it'll take you it might take a few minutes for the not forgettings to read everything. But yeah, this is a great book, and I highly recommend reading it. Especially if you are a female viewer and you want to know more about the female characters in the show. So that is it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.